Stress comes in those thoughts. Peace and joy and happiness is the gaps in between thoughts. So how you focus is by you have to have an intention to do it to start with, and you have to have a practice. It doesn't have to be meditation, but meditation for busy professionals is, in my experience, a practice that works. So what you do is you start by focusing on something else. Like in a meditation, you'd focus on your breath. The first thing that happens, though, is I start noticing those thoughts. Most people, I'm running a leadership group with 18 leaders right now, and they're just starting the practice, and they're going, God, I can't do this. My mind's going crazy. And I say, no, you don't get it. Meditation is becoming familiar with something. You are doing it. Were you noticing those thoughts? Those thoughts have been like that. You just haven't noticed.
What's up, everybody? You know where you are. You are on the Life Inner Show, and on the Life Inner Show, we help people make more, work less, and love their life. What's up, brother?
Hey, man. So one of the coolest things that we're going to be talking about today is focus. And if you know anything about me, hold on, let me move my mic for those that are watching.
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, Peter's picture in his back says where focus goes, energy flows.
Right. And we are going to be talking about this particular subject on this episode because I think it is pretty much the number one thing for people's success.
It's a big thing. Yeah, it is. And, and so our guest is Eric Holsapple. He's an expert. He's a business guy who basically discovered mindfulness and focus. He has an awesome story, and he's going to share with us some of his tips that he uses, not only with himself now, but he likes to share this with other people, and he's successful in helping other business owners and investors take the principle of mindfulness and focus forward.
Yeah, and the important aspect that I want you guys to listen to here is how he applies this to actually business, because a lot of times people don't think like, well, focus. I mean, how can I actually apply this to business and my growing money, making more money? And he actually shows us how that actually happens. We talked about focus, we talked about gratitude, we talked about
happiness,
presence,
mindfulness,
all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So it's awesome. Man, let's go right now to our interview with Eric Holsapple. Eric, what's up, man? Welcome to the Life Inner Show.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate being invited on. Looks like a great show.
Thank you so much for that. I've been following you. I've been doing some research on you, and I am totally intrigued. And what you study and what you teach has totally piqued my interest. And tell people a little bit more before we get into that, which is mindful leadership. Everybody, if you don't know what that is, we're going to talk about it. Tell people a little bit about yourself and how did you start to focus on this? Why did this become important to you?
I've been in real estate almost 40 years, and I was immediately successful. I went through and got a degree and an MBA and went out in real estate. I was immediately successful, working 78 hours a week, and was just, I stepped on the scale. I had 40 pounds overweight. I was stressed. I didn't have a personal life. I was single. And I just said, I got to make some changes. So I started to make some changes. I resigned a big job that I had and got into some health, and I stumbled onto yoga and was just immediately attracted to me. And I did yoga for a few years, and it just really changed my whole feeling of my body. I started noticing more what I was putting in my body and stress levels and that kind of stuff. A couple of years later, my brother introduced me to meditation, and I just took to it. So, and I was pretty much a closet meditator for a long time and just did my yoga. Even when I started, I'm pretty old. There wasn't really the yoga studios all over the place. I was just doing a little CD or DVD at home.
Yeah.
But it evolved and just gradually grew. And eventually I brought it into my business, and I just ended up being happy and even way more successful. By using mindful principles, because I really say mindfulness is focus. And my really big thing is that I don't think you just have to do mindfulness early in the morning or late at night. It's a business strategy. You can just be more focused, more mindful, more intuitive, and change not only your life, but everybody you work with.
So tell me how, you mentioned a couple questions here for you. The first one is, like you mentioned, you're immediately successful. How are you defining success then? And has that changed to, you mentioned it right just now, you're more successful. Like, what are those tests or the measures that you look at for success?
I mean, I was in my 20s, and I was the CEO of a North America division for an international real estate group, and I was successful in culture's view.
Okay.
I had offices I managed, I had money, I had trips, I traveled, all those things. What I didn't have was any time for myself, any personal life.
Yeah.
And I was stressed, and I wasn't really a very nice person either. I mean,
Just from the stress, I guess, like from the responsibilities.
I'm a tough son of a bitch. Sorry, I'm tough to begin with. It's kind of my nature. I'm a tough-minded guy. So almost it was more accentuated with anger and those kind of things. So I could be successful in a transaction, but I don't think I was really somebody you wanted to work with again.
Got it, man. That makes a lot of sense. So so many people now, certainly your level of success is not average. It's exceptional. But at the same time, something you mentioned, which is, you're working these super long weeks and everything started to kind of slide in other parts of your life.
Yeah.
How did you finally actually make that realization? Like, wow, like gosh, like I'm, making all this money, I'm doing all this stuff, but look at my health, look at my relationship.
Yeah.
Like, how did you snap out of that? Because some people never snap out of it and they just continue down that path.
Yeah, it was just a real shock of my health level. I was having some chest pains, which ended up not being my heart, but I didn't know that till I checked it out. It was just stress, and just, I was an athlete growing up. I was 210 pounds. Today I'm, 165. It's just, I was just not healthy. And to be honest, I just didn't feel like I was going to live very long.
So that was just an call.
And it was. And I just really decided no matter the money, I didn't want to live that way.
Right.
So I took that change of, I'm going to change my life, damn the money. And then just one thing after another. I mean, I even went back and got my doctorate when, I really was on a search for a different way of life. But really making money and entrepreneurship's in my DNA. I can't not make it. That's what I gravitate to. I'm good at it. I love business. I love the people I work with. So I just keep gravitating back to that.
Got it. Do you think a lot of people have to go through that kind of scary experience to make a big change? Or what would you say to somebody who sees you and is like, yeah, but I'm going to be okay. Or yeah, but like
I'm fine. I run a 9-month mindful leadership program called Living in the Gap, Mindful Leadership. And when I first started, I taught at the university for 20 years, adjunct, mostly young people. And I really found seniors, cum laude, whatever it is, top ones, they get out, they get, why are you here? I don't know. Mom and dad said, they'd pay for it if it was business or engineering. I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, I'm finding more and more, and I thought I launched this program would be more for young people. What I'm finding is mid-level executives that are really successful, that haven't found purpose, haven't found meaning, and they're really stressed, and they're asking themselves, is this all there is? Is this all there is? And what I teach and what I promote is, no, you can have all that and you can make a bigger difference with your success. If you're willing to do some service projects, to give, to train, to mentor people, and to do those kind of things, plus it changes your dynamic that you make even a bigger difference and even you're more successful, is my experience. When you share it and you bring other people along, it just makes the pie bigger. Is my experience. And it's not that I haven't had experiences where I've, had a bad relationship or, regretted trusting somebody, but I just mean generally, it just keeps coming back to me over and over again.
Gotcha. And so do you, I find that fascinating. Do you think that people, because you mentioned service, sharing, giving to others, how does that play into people's finding because you mentioned a lot of people don't is this all there is to life? Am I meant for more? What is my purpose? Are those linked at all?
I think they are. I mean, I really think the way that capitalism works is through service, is that you give back and you do things when you can. Not you have to, but you find what you're passionate about. Passion is where we get motivation and where we get stimulated and how we really get energy. So I think they are. And I think the nice thing about service, and I do study yoga, is it just sets such great karma out there. And there's a thing that I use called the precision effect, that things work at 90-degree angles. Like the sun is pulling the earth to it, but the earth doesn't crash into the sun. It goes around it. It evolves around the sun. Or bees, they go in to get honey from a flower and they end up cross-pollinating all these flowers as a side effect. When I go into service, like just for instance, I went to university and taught, and it wasn't, it was largely a service because I could make a lot more money out in business and doing real estate. I just find these students later on coming back to me and doing all kinds of fantastic things. And in fact, 4 of them are partners in my firm right now that do most of the heavy lifting while I'm doing things like this. I meet people at a different level when I'm in service on building a habitat house or a food bank or something else. There's a different connection formed than if I'm making a cold call and just trying to business. And I can do that too. And I'm good at it. It's transactional. But I have just found that if I'm more indirect, like just giving of myself, and I'm aware, presence makes me aware that there are other things going on that I watch for them, that just more things open up for me all the time. There's so many opportunities out there. When somebody trusts you, they offer you things. And you just got to be aware to see them. Sometimes it's not what you thought you wanted, but maybe it's better.
Right. And so like, it sounds like it comes from, it's almost like this cycle of reciprocity of sorts where
totally
not giving with the expectation to get back, but just truthfully giving and genuinely serving is what is a return to you. And
this, the science on gratitude is irrefutable, what it does to your mindset. And it's gratitude in action. It's like gratitude on steroids. To actually be putting that gratitude. It's one thing to say, oh, I'm so appreciative. It's another level to go, I'm so appreciative that I'm going to give back. I've had so much given to me that I'm going to give back. So it's, anyway, I think for here, I run a real estate, or I'm not running it anymore, but I'm a partner in a real estate firm called LC Real Estate Group in Loveland, Colorado. And our vision is mindfully creating community. And we're on every nonprofit in the area, making a huge difference, bringing coats and boots, one of our own initiatives, to kids that are in free and reduced lunch in the area elementary schools and those kind of things. It's amazing what it does to the group, bringing the group together for a common cause of different things. And it's amazing how successful people are without focusing on money. We like money. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love it. I love traveling. I love houses. I love all of it. But it's just not a purpose in life. Finding a little bit bigger purpose, you can have that. And as long as I say affluence increases influence. If I have a little money, I can make a bigger difference for myself, my family, and community or other people.
Right. Tie that into mindfulness. Now, what is mindfulness as a like, how would you give a definition of mindfulness for people who aren't familiar with the term?
One word would be focus. Can I focus on what I choose to focus on to the expense of other things when I choose to focus on it, and notice when I'm not? Because on my best days, I'm coming in and out, right? We're so tied up. Our brains are so busy. There's so much going on. But can I notice when I go away in a meeting and I'm not there anymore? I'm, doing somewhere else, and bring myself back? Can I choose to focus on it? My mind is full of what I choose for it to be at that time. And I'm not perfect at it, but I'm better and better at noticing when I'm not and bringing myself back.
So when you're, and so part of this sounds like being present.
Totally.
And it also sounds like, so when you say focus, are you saying like, hey, I am sending an email, I'm going to focus on sending this email and not the other 50 things I have to do? Or are you talking more about focus of a feeling like, hey, I want to focus all day today on having a sense of gratefulness, for instance, or appreciation? Like, is it more
both.
Task, or it's both? Okay.
It's both. It's a mindset. And we all multitask. I mean, I multitask, but I know that I can't focus on multiple things at once. One, maybe 2 things. So I have to be able to operate, like walk, phone, drive. I have to be able to do those things without my total attention. And I do. We all do. But can I, when it's important, like with a family member or a client, can I focus on them, actually listen to what they're saying, not just focus on what I'm going to say in return, or focus on how it impacts me? Can I actually focus on that person? Is mindfulness to me.
Got it.
Can I choose what I want to focus on? Because, I love business, but also business has been tremendous at stealing our focus. I mean, Google, Facebook, ads, that's what it's all about. They learn the science of attention and they learn to steal it. I think if business took on mindfulness, there's a thing called creative destruction that Schumpeter came up with in the 1940s. Business can just transform itself, just constantly. That if business took on mindfulness as a tool, it would also transform the internet, transform social media, and transform all those things. That business is so powerful. That's why my mission is, and I've got a book coming out called Profit with Presence. And that mission is to show businesses as another way. We can be a little more mindful. You have to make money. I mean, we're not going to be here. And we're a capitalist system. We might as well embrace it. I love it. But the only way capitalism works is if we look out for each other. And, and we're giving when we can. Not when we can't, but when we can. I just think it's a whole nother business strategy that could help us out of this quagmire that we're in, globally right now.
So I got a question for you, because I love this conversation about focus and being present. And I think there's also the other thing that's being intentional that comes into play here. But here's my question for you. We're talking about being focused. And for someone who has trouble with it, a lot of people, when I have conversation with them, they say to me, well, yeah, it's easier said than done because I don't have control. I mean, my mind just wanders all over the place, just keeps going, all the stuff. So how do you actually focus? Like, will you swallow a magic pill, or how do you actually focus? How do you make that work?
Well, and I didn't stumble on this work because I'm enlightened. I stumbled on this work because I'm that person you're describing. That I wasn't focused. I was stressed. Stress comes in those thoughts. Peace and joy and happiness is the gaps in between thoughts. So how you focus is by you have to have an intention to do it to start with. And you have to have a practice. It doesn't have to be meditation, but meditation for busy professionals is, in my experience, a practice that works. Now, everybody won't do it. So you have to have some other practices too. But so what you do is you start by focusing on something else. Like in a meditation, you'd focus on your breath. And it's kind of like the precision effect that I talked about earlier. When I focus on my breath, my mind calms down. The first thing that happens, though, is I start noticing those thoughts. Most people, I'm running a leadership group with 18 leaders right now, and they're just starting the practice, and they're going, God, I can't do this. My mind's going crazy. And I say, no, you don't get it. Meditation is becoming familiar with something. You are doing it. Were you noticing those thoughts? Those thoughts have been like that. You just haven't noticed. You've been tied up in it and thought that that's what your identity was and what's going on. We look to make a separation between those thoughts and that craziness and ourselves, which is more in the realm of consciousness and presence. I have thoughts and my mind goes, but I don't have to be tied up in that all the time. So, and the more that I let that go and focus on something else, like my breath or something else, the more the mind calms down over time. The other thing is, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. Our program's 9 months. I think it takes about a year of mindfulness with a good practice. We start with 2 minutes because longer than that can be counterproductive because our minds are so crazy. If I sit down and try to do 20 minutes the first time, I'm like, holy God, that's like a nightmare, Yeah. But a couple of minutes, I can get in there and see what it is and then go on about my day. And the more important thing is consistency. Can I do it daily, 5-6 times a week or something? A little bit, start with 2 minutes. And when that gets so it's a habit, move to 3, 4, 5 minutes. When we take, 9 months to get people up to 10 minutes regularly, because we've spent our whole lives being like this. Well, you look like a baby come out. Either one of you have kids?
Yep, both of us.
Both of us, yeah.
Look at the baby comes out and how they are just in awe and looking around and go, and we just keep jamming them into these systems that we have until they're just like us, till they're just as crazy as we are. And we're in that, and we were just like that. For us to take, I'm 64, whatever, 40, 50, 30 years, however long we have not paying attention, not being present, it's ridiculous for us to think that we're going to be present in an instant. We're just going to have this intent. It takes a practice. And the big thing is, and then starting to notice when you're not present and not judging yourself, but just saying, okay, I'll let it go. I'm going to come back. 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 And it's a process. And it's just so rewarding. I see people over and over again that say things like, oh, wow, my kids like me now. It's crazy.
Wonder why, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm present with them. That's all they want. You don't have to know the thing to say all the time to a client or a kid or anybody else. My wife doesn't, she hates it when I know what to say. She just wants me to listen. I always know what to say, I think I do. She just wants me to listen, just to be present with somebody. And I'm not, I run at 150 miles an hour. So I'm not saying I got this all down and I'm probably one of the biggest violators. That's why I've gone into this work for my own joy, for my own peace of mind. I don't think I'd be here, to be honest. I think I would have gone out at about 40.
Well, I love that conversation because some of the things that I heard you say was focus is not something that you literally you're not thinking for 15 minutes kind of a thing. Like there's no thought. You're like in a black hole. It's not about that kind of a thing, right? And the other aspect is being present, being intentional, and really just noticing it. It's a lot of it has to about noticing the thoughts that go in and out, being present to that and being able to let it go. And then I think because one of the things that people I think struggle with is like the ability to let it go. And I think the big aspect of that is not judging yourself about it. Because, I did it again. I can't believe it, right?
And here's the real gift is that we set off on a task to make money. First of all, I promote making money. I think making money is great. It can be transformative to yourself, and it's very mindful that the money is not the purpose, but it's to improve the quality of life of you and the ones you love. So I set out on a task to make money and a project dies. I'm a real estate developer by trade. Projects die, I can't tell you how many times by being awake and alert that I see the opportunity that came out of that project and I make more than I ever thought I would. If I'm judging myself and all I'm doing is beating myself up as, damn, you missed it. That's go, if I can just let it go. And it's easier once you have a little money than when you're, every time you go down, you think the bank's going to take your house. I mean, that's harder. I got to admit, I'm not saying it isn't. But if you can let it go and you stay aware, when you judge, your mind closes. Whether that's yourself, a project, or, other political party, whatever. When we judge, our mind closes. If we let the judgment go, our mind stays open and our awareness increases and we can see other opportunities. Because what happened, it's intentional action that a lot of our practices let us take. We still don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't control the outcome of things. But if I'm awake and alert, I can see, I lost that one. I lost that house. But geez, did you see the one on the corner? Boy, they look like there's a moving truck there. I wonder what's going on there. Boom, boom. Oh, there's a house in the neighborhood. I could tell you if it was more time, project after project that I've had a project I lost $500,000 on and turned it into a, multi-million-dollar shopping center because we were alert. We took what we learned and we moved it somewhere else. Not just, and I wasn't happy about it. Now I won't lie to you,
right?
But I didn't just beat myself up about it because I know a good education's expensive. The real school is, going out and lose some money. And then you take that, you learn it, and you apply that to something else. Success is a matter of managing your failures. And I think being present and alert rather than judgmental on ourselves, we're the biggest ones of saying, you dummy, if I can stop doing that, I can be alert of, oh gosh, but look at, Susie didn't want to go out with me, but Paula does. Whatever it is, right. I can be alert of opportunities if I'm not closed.
So I can see totally the value in being present when, so you mentioned, being present with your kids, your spouse, on the task at hand. And I think people can kind of understand why that's beneficial. But I also feel like when it comes to like meditation in particular, like if you're going to take time away from the whatever task, from the day to day, and like really just focus inwardly on your thoughts and things like that, your breath, whatever it is, I think a lot of people perceive that as like slowing down. Like, hey,
totally.
I'm going to get less done. I'm going to this is in my way. You're telling me to slow down. I want to go faster. I want to get more done.
Totally.
And so talk to me about how to reframe that for people, because it's just not true.
Yeah, and it's like, I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
Because we waste so much time. Try to track your calendar for 2 weeks. Just see all of your time that you're actually being productive and the time you waste on different things. If I can be more focused, I waste less time. If I can actually talk to somebody, a lot of times they tell me something that saves me time. But I'm so engrossed in this. And I'm the biggest perpetrator. I remember 15 years ago, it's one of the things I say in my book, a partner of mine, Nathan, who's now, just bombing it, man. He's so successful. Said, you can't talk to Eric, because I was so busy, and in my emails and whatnot, I'd be like, God, I'm so busy. Mm-hmm. But I took a lot of focus and intention not to be that way, because it was just, I'm driven. Mm-hmm. But I can just tell you that I waste less time, and I'm more efficient. I'm more focused. I just get to it. I see what the real root thing is, and I get to it, and I'm less stressed and I'm more joyful. The other thing is, more people want to deal with you. Who do you want to deal with? Someone that's stressed out and unhappy, or someone that's happy and, actually cares about you? I think those are the phone calls you get. Somebody actually will approach you, and they know you're someone to listen to them. I think more opportunities come up to you, and you waste less time. And there's times to be focused. My wife, I said the night before last, it was something I did, and my wife said, "You're not listening to me." She was right. I was so focused on what I was doing. Like, that is focus. I blocked everything else out.
Just focus on something else.
So I turned it and I focused on her until we worked through it. And I said, I'm sorry. This is where my mind works, man.
Eric, that's never happened to any other man, by the way. It's like you might be able
that's the proving ground, man. All the time you think, it was Ram Dass, who's a meditation guy. He passed away last year. He said, used to say, you think you're enlightened? Go spend a week with your family.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, and so it's what I'm hearing is like, hey, you know what? Taking the time to learn this process is not slowing you down. It's not going to hold you back. It's actually going to accelerate you. It's going to expedite and improve your success and in so many different ways. And I'm also wondering, so is it a good idea? I think of when let's say you're working, and well, two things. One is I've started to become more aware of when I'm not being productive. I can catch it now. Am I being active or am I being productive? Two different things. Mm-hmm. And so the meta thinking, I guess, is starting to take its roots. But I'm also wondering, is this something you recommend people do? Let's say, a few times a day. Hey, take 2 minutes. When you start, when you catch yourself being unproductive, is there a way to snap yourself out of that? And should you go sit in a corner and just for a minute or two and try to refocus? Are those ways to get back on track?
I think you need to go sit in the corner. Yeah. You specifically.
Or take a walk.
Yeah.
And when you take the walk around the building, leave your phone. It's we think 5 minutes without the phone, we're going to miss the deal of the century or something. It's that we just have this fear of missing out. So take a walk around the building, just look up at the trees, and leave your phone behind. Or, maybe multiple meditation sessions that are short, but maybe that's too much. Depends on the personality and those kind of things. One session. And then I even teach a one breath meditation that is, later in the day when you get yourself to just reset, go again. It's just a mindset shift. And we don't meditate in the morning, or I like the morning, whatever the time of day is that works for you is good. We don't do that for that time. We do that for how it comes into our day. That time ends up being nice and we feel good. And after, a few months, you start looking forward to it. At first, as you guys pointed out, as I've experienced myself and hundreds of others, it's torment to begin with, just like starting running or going to the gym is. it's how that comes into your day later on. Later on, you find yourself in traffic or when somebody's at a meeting, pointing their finger at you, just to notice that you're breathing rather than reacting and thinking about you. You can just go, what he's saying is not true. That doesn't hurt me.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. And just, it's what comes in later in your day. So you learn some techniques like taking a walk. I teach getting in your body, just learning how to actually place your consciousness in your body, because it comes out of your brain. When you do that, you can sit in a meeting, just learn to be focused on your sitting and whatnot. And it just takes the stress out. So you learn some other techniques that can come in during the day. Because, you're not going to say, hey, I'll be back to you. I'm going to go meditate for 2 minutes, and I'll get you your answer. You're not going to do that. That's weird.
So on that note, hold on, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Right. So, but listen, I love that conversation, because one of the things that you just mentioned, to those little strategies, like you sit down straight, right? And you focus on that. Yeah. What that does, it ultimately allows you to let go of that other thought that was maybe not being productive or was stressing you out, whatever it might be. And those little things can shift, because all it is, we're shifting our focus constantly, don't we?
And shifting our mindset, from to a mindset of abundance and gratitude that there's plenty. I mean, look at us in this country, what we have.
Right.
It's look around the world. If we can't be happy, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? I say a shift the focus, be happy first. And then more people want to work with you, and you see more opportunities because you're happy. You're someone that's worth dealing with, and you don't have a heart attack over every little blip, every little. And that, I don't like losing money either. I'm telling you, I hate it.
I don't think anybody does. So I have a follow-up question, because earlier in the conversation, when we were talking about the focus, you mentioned the precision effect. You talked about how Earth works with the sun and then bees pollinate. How does that affect this precision effect? How does this play into our business, our own personal lives? How does that actually work?
Well, you guys are in real estate, right?
Yep.
Is that right? Primarily? It's real estate, and I think most businesses have a community that are like this. But if you go into your community and you start providing service, you'll have opportunities presented to you can't even dream of. You just go into the habitat meetings, to the food bank, to the housing authorities, to whatever it is, and just provide your expertise and show a meeting and be genuine and try to help. Because also we have so much to add to the nonprofit world, because a lot of them have big hearts, but they don't have the business experience or acumen that someone that's willing to go in can give them, here, or a connection of, hey, there's a parcel over here that might work, or a house down here. You just have so much focus, especially if you can get with somebody that's, you feel is productive. So I say, try a few different things. It's so much more effective than cold calling. It's a local business, real estate, primarily. Some groups, REITs and things, maybe not, but most of us, it's a local business. And you just get to know people, and you get to know the community. You can't believe the calls we get where people want us to look at things. And but we don't abuse it. We don't go into a meeting trying to get business. We go in to serve. And it just comes back to you, and it puts you, you're trying to get out on all these networking events. Well, it's like networking on steroids, because you're putting great energy out, And when you give, people's reaction is to give back. That's just mirror neurons. Watch people that do it with you. You feel like giving back when somebody gives to you. And you also watch, you want to hang, you find other givers at these meetings. You don't want to give to a lot of takers. You want to give to other givers, and a lot of them around these causes. And there's a lot of them, man. There's so many. You find something that some people it's pets, some people it's healthcare, some people it's housing, mental health, whatever. You find something that means something to you, and give. We ask 2 hours a week. To go, we give comp time at our company too, to say, you can go do this. We just find it to be a tremendous, and I can swear by real estate. Most industries, I think, have a similar thing. Real estate is my bread and butter. And I know I would just say, the number one best strategy for real estate promotion. is to give. Get out there in the meetings, they don't take that long. I have a guy here that spends a day a week at nonprofit meetings, full day. And his business is, I tell you what, he's had to bring on partners. His business is just overflowing. People want to deal with him.
Yeah.
He's a giver.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. You mentioned your book earlier. What's that? What's the deal with that? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's coming out. It's available for pre-sale on Amazon now. It'll be coming out in the first quarter. It's called Profit with Presence. And it really talks about these concepts that, mindfulness can be a valid business strategy. It can make you happier now. And that happiness and that success that you feel now will promote more business. So it's it's Profit with Presence, the 12 pillars of mindful leadership. Also the basis of the mindfulness training that we run. And it's a recipe book or a guidebook, a resource reference to how you actually put these things in place in business. That's the difference in what I do. Is there's a lot of people that are better at mindfulness probably than I am, better at yoga than I am and all that. But I say, you know what? This is business. This is being present in business and a different way to run your business that will make your family better, make your, and I say, why not love the people you work with? They're the same people that you're running around, that you grew up with. Everything is just a different context.
So man, I love this. Where do people learn more about, so the Amazon, they can get the book. How about your training or you in general? Where do people learn more?
Livinginthegap.org. Living in the gap. And the gap is that space between thoughts. When one thought stops and another one starts, we have about 6,000 thoughts a day, the average person. Not a lot of gaps in there. So we work on getting a little bit of gap because stress and anxiety are in the thoughts, peace and joy and happiness, success is in the gaps. So we work on focusing on those gaps.
That's awesome.
Livinginthegap.org.
Livinginthegap.org. Got it. Well, Eric, it's been an honor. It's been a privilege. I can't wait to see what happens from here. Looking forward to reading the book. And thank you for being on the Life Inner Show.
I appreciate you having me on. I wish you guys the best. I love what you do.
Thank you. Peter, I am 100% present right now in this conversation. I just want you to know that.
Are you sure about that?
100%
I'm looking at your forehead. It doesn't look like, seems like the
I can't, I don't know if my gratitude is there and appreciation yet, but I am present.
Lord. No, listen, it was a great conversation because of the fact that he reiterated a lot of the things that not only make sense, but this stuff works. When we talked about...
Dude, it does.
Yeah, when we talked about the meditation, because I think there's a huge misconceptions in the communities about what meditation is. And it's not about, getting into this black hole. I think maybe monks do it, but the regular folk like us, it's about, the thoughts come in, recognizing, let it go kind of thing, right? And not judging yourself and things like that and throughout the day. And I think that plays a huge role to your success.
Well, man, I think people just overlook it. They're like, oh, what is that going to do for me? How is that going to really help? I got stuff to do. I got emails to send out. I got contracts to sign. I got to get to it. And not realizing not only kind of the calming and centering and focused kind of mindfulness that you can develop through meditation, but I think it's something that kind of it's almost like for instance, I take quiet time every morning, and and recently I'm out of my morning cardio due to an injury, but that sets my entire day up, and if I miss it, I notice it, and I'm not as productive, I'm not as focused, I'm kind of like a squirrel running around all day, chasing a nut. And you get at the end of the day, here, if you've ever felt like you've gotten to the end of the day and you're like, what have I done all day? I've been busy. I feel like I've been running around my hair on fire, but I haven't gotten anything done. Well, chances are you weren't super focused and super mindful. Maybe you were active, but you weren't productive.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you've learned that from the experience based on looking at your head while running with a hair on fire.
Dude, I have hair. I shave it just for the record, for anybody.
Sure.
You guys need to back me up on this. I know you can see
some kind of a
there.
disclaimer you're trying to put on here. It's not going to work.
Dude, but listen,
I have proof, okay?
that dude, I know those are all plugs.
Yeah, right.
But it's so true. If you can take, and by the way, I love that quote. Who said it, man? You've probably seen this quote. It says hey, if you don't have time for 10 minutes a day for meditation, then you need to do 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And dude, I love what he said as well. This takes time to master. It takes time to learn this. We've been going down this path for 30, 40, 60 years, and we're accustomed to doing. Like, it's all about doing. It's all about output. And this feels counterintuitive to a lot of people. And so you're probably going to suck at it when you start. You'll probably be able to hold a thought or focus on your breath for about 3 seconds before you think of something else. That's okay. Like, I love what you said about judgment, man, because it's so true. Because otherwise you're thinking about just judging yourself and you suck and you're horrible at this. That's not going to help.
Right. And that's what gets you back into those thoughts, right? So big thing, I think, at the beginning of this whole meditation process, the beginning of shifting your focus and being, present and intentional, the big thing that needs to be awareness, and you are aware of what's actually going on. Because like he said, we got about 6,000 thoughts a day. Think about that for a second. 6,000 thoughts a day.
Hold on, do some math here while you're talking here, dude.
Right. And here's the thing. We're not aware of it, are we? Are we aware of the fact that we have 6,000 thoughts? So if you just stop and listen to yourself, you start seeing all those different thoughts that are going through it. So being aware of it, all of a sudden you make a huge shift into how you go and let go of that thought, let go of this thought, and bring more calm. Because here's the thing. One of the coolest things that you mentioned also is that, there's a peace and calmness, and then there is the stress, and then there is an anxiety and things like that. Yeah. And notice which one actually makes a big difference. Right. So the mindfulness gets you back to this peace and mindfulness and focus, and that's what transformed his business. Yeah. It wasn't that he go and, he didn't say at any point, I just got this insane, consulting company. They revamp my entire business and things like that. And maybe at some point that happened. Yeah. But he gives the credit to being able to shift his focus and mindfulness and how it actually applies in his business.
Dude, it's so true. And, so it's funny, like if you take 6,000 and I'm going to divide it by, say, 17 hours, because we'll say the average person gets 7 hours of sleep a night. That is 353 thoughts per hour. And if you divide that by 60, you get almost 6 thoughts per minute. So every 10 seconds, essentially, you have a new thought. Like, how can you possibly get anything real done if you're so scattered and focus is just distributed in all these different things? And so learning to focus, learning to be intentional. And also what you just said is I want people to really catch, like, it's being intentional and focus on the right things, not the wrong things. And we didn't get into this discussion on the podcast in a whole lot of depth, but he mentioned it, like focusing on gratitude, on happiness, on, maybe the things you can control, not worrying about the things you can't control, like the outcomes and circumstances that, regardless of what happens, you're going to be okay, on abundance, not scarcity, and learning not only how to filter those thoughts, but focus on those to the exclusion of the negative things that are going to derail you and distract you. Like, it's so powerful.
Right. It's not so much of not thinking about the negative thoughts. It's about thinking about the things that you don't want to think about. Because by doing that, all of a sudden, you're not thinking about the negative thoughts. Similar, like we talk about, is a 3-day gear like events, right? Don't think about the pink elephant.
Right.
All right. How many of you listeners right now, raise your hand. By the way, I see you.
We can see you.
Yep. That you are raising your hand right now, that you thought about the pink elephant. Yeah. Because it's what we give attention to. That's what we tend to focus on. So totally. It's a process, right? It takes some,
takes time, man.
Just strategies, right? Like focus on your breath, or stand up straight and focusing on sitting straight, or whatever it might be. And that little action alone, because your body gets activated, your nervous system gets activated. And what happens? Your focus tends to shift. Your thought goes somewhere else. Yep. And you start, because you have to be, in order for you to focus on a breath, you have to intentionally do it, right? So by doing that, you're not thinking about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's really powerful.
As an analogy, you have your voluntary kind of nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, but you also have your autonomic nervous system, which is like, hey, these are all things that happen by default. They just happen. Mm-hmm. And so you need to learn how to get out of the default mode and how to get into deliberate mode. Yep. And that will make the difference for you. And it's just practice. And what you said before, awareness, right? Like just being aware when you get off track to get back on track, right? that's a huge step, because otherwise you go down the rabbit hole. You don't realize you're in the rabbit hole until you're way down there. And eventually you'll just start catching yourself quicker and quicker and quicker until you'll be on track, like, way, way more of the time. Listen, this is an awesome episode, man. I know it was right up your alley. There's a lot of overlap with what Life in Air teaches, as far as like what success really is, and balancing all the parts of your life. By the way, speaking of which, you mentioned the Get a Life Getaway. This is an awesome event to create that Life Inner Vision, because the Life Inner Vision is going to be your roadmap. It's going to be your blueprint for that life that you really, really want. So you can define success for yourself, not based on generating a bunch of money, but everything else in your life is falling apart and is being, sacrificed on that altar of success. So get out to the Get a Life Getaway and the Business Builder Workshop. By the way, if you don't know that, that's where we help people basically discover, create, and set up a business to serve that life and the lifestyle. So if you like this episode, please like it, share, subscribe. If you want to be part of the conversation, already, we have a personal, private Facebook group for anybody that wants to be involved in this journey towards pursuing their vision, and they want support to get there. Like, we're there to circle around you, to rally the troops, and to help you achieve what it is you want out of life. We'll see you guys next week. Take care. Have a great one.